Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm doing another interview. My guest today's from The Next Step. They played Frederico on the show. He was a judge on Dance Mania, and today he's going to come on and tell us a little bit more about themselves and his career. So today Ron will be joining me.
Hello, I'm Ron Peterson, and I play Frederico on The Next Step, the mysterious Frederico.
Yeah, he's definitely mysterious, and thank you so much for coming on my show, Ron. So obviously today we're going to be talking about your acting career. My first question is, when did you first get into the acting world?
I actually started acting when I was really young. I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And like most kids, I was in hockey, and it wasn't really something I was completely interested in. My parents put me into Taekwondo, I was really a kid of imagination and playing and, setting up scenarios with my friends and playing Indiana Jones and those sorts of things in the backyard. And luckily, my mother really picked up on that, and she put me in a Citadel Theater, both of my parents, they put me in Citadel Theater School, which is a regional theater in Edmonton, which has a terrific theater school for kids. So I was put into that about 7 or 8, so that was quite young. So I started quite young, and from there I just stayed with it. And Edmonton was a very it still is. It's a theater town. There's a lot of theater there. There's a lot of opportunity to work in different types of theaters, comedy and Shakespeare, and the Fringe Festival in Edmonton is one of the biggest theater festivals in North America. It's based on the one in Edinburgh. And so it was just a rich place to grow up, wanting to be an actor and then becoming an actor. And I became professional, started making money acting in my late teens.
Oh, that's super cool, and it sounds like your early career and the journey getting to where you are today is a super cool one. So obviously we were talking earlier about The Next Step, and that's one big moment in your career. But what was it like auditioning for The Next Step?
Auditioning for The Next Step, it was actually really fun because I was called in and asked to improvise. I'm known as somebody who improvises a lot. I studied improvisation, and I perform improvisation all over the place in different troupes. And sometimes that's a skill that's called upon. So the audition, they wanted somebody who could come in and make sort of comments on, not necessarily funny, but, interesting comments or saucy comments about a dance competition, as you know. And so I didn't know very much about the show. I watched a few episodes of it, and I went in, and the character's name was Frederico. And so I went in and actually I did a bit of an accent, and I'm not sure what kind of accent it was, but I was just sort of trying to give it a bit of an exotic flavor, and just had fun with it. So the audition was really fun, and I think out of the audition they decided to expand the character a little bit even.
Oh, that's super cool. And definitely about the improv thing, I think that's definitely like an interesting thing to kind of do in an audition. And like you were saying, it's definitely a good skill to have, because in a way it's kind of like more stressful, but then also more fun, like you were saying, because you can kind of play around with it like you did.
Exactly. It can be very exhilarating, and it can be scary in a great way too. Improv. I recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's definitely like a super cool thing to have. So, do you have any advice to people who want to get into the acting world?
People who want to get into the acting world, I would say, because I'm from the theater, I think that's sort of where acting is really king in terms of art form. In film and television, it's kind of an editor's medium. The editor is sort of in charge of organizing the story. In the theater, the playwright indeed writes the play, but then it's handed to the actor and it's up to him to make it live in the evening, on the evening of the show or the matinee. So I just would recommend anybody wanting to get into acting to study theater. I think once you get into theater and learn how to approach a character, approach a project with a theatrical discipline, then film and television, it's quite different, but at least you have a base of a way to work, and I think the theater gives you that as an actor.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does kind of give you that as an actor, and I definitely I'm part of a theatre group, and I think it's definitely a great way to start into acting because it kind of gives you kind of everything, especially the musical side, the singing, the acting, and the dancing, and you might need that in the professional industry. So it's definitely a good kickstarter for your career.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd also recommend, as I say, I'm someone who got into improvisation, and I think that's something that has really fueled me as an artist, as an actor, and it's really helped me with all of my work. I'd also say, actors should be people who are fascinated by things. I think, if you want to be fascinating on screen, if you want to be fascinating on stage, I think you should live a life of curiosity and fascination in all art forms, literature and dance and science, and it's good to know a lot of things that you can that you can bring to your work.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely really important. So, what was it like being on Mad TV?
Mad TV was, again, a very surprising job that came to me. I was improvising in Canada, and some friends had a show in Los Angeles, and I just went to Los Angeles for fun to improvise, and I ended up having a really wonderful time, and was noticed by the producers of Mad TV, which was a comedy show that I certainly loved. I grew up reading Mad Magazine, which the television series was based on, which is a bunch of pop culture parodies and sketches and musical guests. So I fell into that job. I was improvising and then asked to audition, and because of all the work I had done in Edmonton with a troupe called Dynasty, I had developed a bunch of characters that I had in my pocket that I could sort of perform, and that's what they were looking for. They were looking for characterizations and impressions, and so I was pretty ripe and ready for that audition, and then it ended up getting that job, and I moved to Los Angeles for 5 years. I worked on the show for 3, but it was a crazy adventure, and I learned a lot.
Well, yeah, that experience and that journey sounds really amazing, and it's definitely great that you got to do it. So, is there anybody you feel inspired by or you look up to in the acting world?
Yeah, I look up to a lot of people. I've got a lot of favorite actors. Someone that comes to mind is a Canadian actor that I'm sure not a lot of people would have known. He sadly passed away last summer, and his name was Brent Carver, and I recommend everybody look him up. He was a Broadway actor, a Shakespearean actor here in Canada at the Stratford Festival, and he also, he performed all over. And when I was 15 or 16, he won the Tony Award in New York on Broadway for a musical called Kiss of the Spider Woman, which he also did in London in the 90s. And so I saw him on television win that award, not really knowing who he was, but knowing that he was from Canada. And a few months later, after winning the award, he came to Edmonton, Alberta, and played Cyrano de Bergerac, which is a great classic play. And I got to go to a dress rehearsal of it, and I was just amazed. It was just like one of the most amazing performances. And then I was sort of just always in love with his acting and his performing and his singing. He's a very soulful performer, as you can see. You can check him out on YouTube. He was in another musical on Broadway called Parade. But Brent Carver, he's somebody that a touchstone for me because he's Canadian from the motherland, and because he was just extraordinary. Nobody else like him.
Oh, well, he sounds like an amazing person to look up to, and you've said like he's done so many things, which is amazing. And yeah, I'll definitely have to like check him out after this because he sounds really great. So where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
I'm not sure. Again, you know, for me, when I became an improviser, when I started improvising, that philosophy really got into my blood. And I'm also a big fan of the Eastern philosophy of Taoism. And I think improv and Taoism have a lot in common, and a lot of that has to do with letting go, allowing things to unfold, seeing what happens, seeing what arrives. And so in 10 years, I'm not sure. I'm excited to see what unfolds, but I don't really have a plan.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of exciting in a way to kind of just see what happens and see what comes up. I guess like it's kind of relaxing as well, not really having a set in stone plan as well.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and it's exciting to allow your life to happen.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. So we're talking earlier about what it was like auditioning for the next step, but what was it like playing your character on the show? Because your character, as we know, was kind of a baddie to start with, then a goodie, then a baddie. So what was it like playing that?
Well, I think earlier we mentioned that Frederico was a bit mysterious, and so that was that was what was fun about being on the set, is sort of just getting to know everybody as well. On the set, I was new to the show, and everybody was so terrific, and it was really cool to be able to watch all the dancing. I mean, I got to watch several takes of those dancers just be amazing. So being on set was really fun, and playing Frederico is fun. You don't get to see a lot of it because they only chose 1 or 2 lines per dance, but we were improvising a lot of lines which weren't used. So we were having a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely does sound like a lot of fun. And like you were saying, you got to see so many dances. So could you like pick your favourite one? Because you had like the audition dances and the Dance Mania dances. So it was 2 kind of very different dance routines, I guess you could say.
Well, you know what? The first thing that I shot was Briar's character's audition. Where I'm just sort of standing, and that was the first time that I'd ever seen her dance. You know, I mean, to be honest, that was the first time I'd watch a clip or 2, you know, on periphery, but the touchstone for me watching the show was earlier episodes. So by the time I got on the set, I was like, oh yeah, Briar, this should be interesting. And then she just blew me away. I was like, oh, this is really an amazing show. And I guess the other one that sticks out was the Alice in Wonderland number. I thought that was really, really vivid.
Yeah, those 2 dances were amazing, especially Briar's audition solo, because she did so many kind of jumps and tricks in it, because I remember that very well. It was a super cool dance. Yeah,
it was really, really blew me away. Ron, not Frederico. I was just like, wow, I didn't have to act for that.
Yeah, that's super good, and I'm really glad that it kind of blew you away, because she is an amazing dancer. So what has been the best moment in your career, if you can pick?
Wow, that's a question. The best moment in my career. You know, I've recently been directing plays more. That's sort of something that's what I'd like to be doing 10 years from now. I'd like to be directing a lot more. But recently the most fulfilling work for me has been directing. And I've just directed a few plays in Canada in the last few years. I've been lucky enough that theaters have let me direct things. Also putting together, producing shows, that sort of thing is kind of the most satisfying. So lately that would be my answer about what's most satisfying in my career, directing.
Yeah, that's great, and it's also great to hear like that you're trying out kind of different parts of the acting industry. I think that's always interesting to kind of explore what else is in there, but within like what you know, if you know what I mean. It just sounds super fun.
Well, I think you'll see if you, as an actor, as you go, you know, and if you're in it long enough, you sort of start to want to be able to be in charge yourself. You know, and that's certainly in the theater. That's something I want to do a lot more of.
Yeah, well that's great, and yeah, fingers crossed for the future. I hope it all goes well for you. So, what was it like playing Golly Gee Kid in Sidekick? It's a bit of a strange name.
The Golly G Kid. I think they. I never said it because I think it's pronounced the Golly G Kid. Again, this is another. It's funny that you bring that up. That was just another surprise gig. I don't even think I auditioned for that one. I think I auditioned for some other cartoon, and the producers or the casting director heard me perform something else and then said, oh, he might be good for this. And the Golly G Kid, if I remember correctly, was a superhero sidekick who was always getting the brunt of the violence. So I had to do a lot of vocalizations of being stuck on a fan or being whipped into a concrete machine and then shot into a slingshot to the moon and bounced off. So I was always having to make really wild noises whenever I went in. It was really a strange gig.
Yeah, well, that is strange because I guess it must have been weird kind of knowing like what sounds to make, because I don't think anybody's been shot to the moon, so...
Yeah, exactly. The script would say he bounces off the wall into a refrigerator, the refrigerator explodes, he turns into confetti, he gets stuck on a ceiling fan. Can you make those noises? And I'd give it a go.
Yeah, well, it sounds like kind of a unique job and opportunity, so it's great you got to do it. So I have one more question for you, and this is always my favourite question to ask, and is, do you have any behind-the-scenes stories from the next step that you can share?
Any behind-the-scenes stories that I can share? Well, you know, something that someone might not know, my friend Jan Caruana writes on the show. So once I got the job, I found out that my friend Jan Caruana is a writer on the show, and she is just one of the most brilliant, funny, imaginative people ever. And so I was excited to get on the show and have her be around, because I know she wrote some of those episodes. But then she actually appeared. If you're watching the show, Frederico has an assistant, and it's Jan, and she's in a yellow T-shirt with a clipboard. So that's one of the writers. I don't think they gave her any dialogue because then they'd have to pay her, pay her more. But she was union, so they put her in as my assistant, somebody to just turn and say, you know, remember to call J-Lo. Yeah, so that was a really fun thing, and maybe just a little what do you call it? A little Easter egg that people don't know about.
Yeah, I can remember her because she was she was the one who took the phone, I think, from Ozzy. Am I right?
Well, you've got a great memory, yeah. Good, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like that's like kind of a cool kind of role to have, like being the assistant of a judge.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll expand her character too in season 8.
Yeah, we have came to the end of the interview now, and it's been fantastic talking about the next step in your career, so thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Charlie. It was a pleasure.
You're most welcome, and also thank you to everybody who watched the interview. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for another one. Bye, guys!